أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي جعل لكل شيء قدرا ولكل قدر أجلا ولكل أجل كتابا أشهد أن لا إله إلا هو وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحابه ومن سلك مسلكه ونهج منهجه الشريف إلى يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. إخوتي في الدين المشاهدون الكرام السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the preserver, the cherisher, the sustainer, the designer, is the beginner whose beginning has no end, is the one that would also ensure that all existence in our existence suffers lack of existence at a point in future when there shall be no existence other than He. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Until that day when nothing will profit humanity except those who come to Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with a clean heart, with a clean mind. I thank Allah who has preserved our lives till today. As I always say, مَا كَمْ مِنْ صَحِيحٍ مَاتَ مِنْ غَيْرِ عِلَّةٍ وَكَمْ مِنْ سَقِيمٍ عَاشَ حِينَ مِنَ الدَّهْرِ. Allah says, it's a poet who says, "Kam min sahihin mata min ghayri illatin." How many are they? Those who are hale and hearty yesterday, but by the time it's morning, this morning, they've departed this world. وَقَيْ مِنْ سَقِيمٍ عَاشَ حِينَ مِنَ الدَّهْرِ. And you can't do the enumeration of those amongst humanity. Those who would have, the medics would have concluded that this individual will surely depart this world. But lo and behold, Allah turned the unexpected to the expected. Allah made it happen such that the person who had been certified dead, so to say, whose departure, whose life, medics have said that, had said that it's going to expire. But Allah turned the situation around, and the person is alive to today. I thank Him for those mercies that we are aware of. I also thank Him for those mercies we can't be aware of, by the limitation of our existence, by the limitation of our reality, by the fact that when we say we know, we actually do not know. I testify that Allah's apostle is Muhammad al-Mustafa, Muhammad al-Mujtaba. Is the son of Abdullah, the son of Amina, is the one who received the revelation at a time when humanity was in quandary, at a time humanity desired direction, and Allah made it possible for him to receive the revelation, and Allah also made it possible for him to deliver it unto humanity, using Makkah as a laboratory from which what we are benefiting from today, and that's Islam, is here with us, celebrating the path of rectitude. I have two impetus for today's interaction. But maybe I should engage one first. Then in the next week edition, we shall look at the second one. The first one relates to a thread, some sentences, some reflections sent to me by a brother. And as usual, my vocation is reflection. My vocation is to do hard thinking. He questioned me. He sent a message to me that, don't you know we're all on the line? And I said, that's true. We're all on the line. Everybody in life is on the line. Our life is on the line. Our existence is on the line. The path upon which Allah has placed humanity is also actually a line, a path, not paths. When I chanced upon the message, I remembered Suratul Insan, بعد الاستعاذة والبسمة, آية ثالثة. Allah says, ألا أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا. Allah says, ألا أتى على الإنسان, as it come unto humanity, a time, حين من الدهر, a time when time was undated, a time when time couldn't have been dated. There was no way time could be dated with reference to the Almighty Allah, because all dates, all dated entities speak to their ephemerality. When you say something is dated, by dating it, you are actually imagining a time when the dated will enter into undatedness. To date an entity is to also imagine that it has a beginning. And once it's dated, the implication is that there has to be an expiration for it. So Allah says, Al-ata ala al-insan heen min ad-dar. As it comes to humanity, a time when lam yakun shay'an madhkura. Humanity, human beings, I and you, we were nothing. Inna khalaqna al-insana min nutfatin amshajin nabtalihi. After a while, khalaqna al-insana min nutfatin amshajin nabtalihi. We created human beings. Allah created me and you min nutfatin amshajin nabtalihi, from the union of sperm and egg. Nabtalihi. We fashioned it, not him. The it that became he and she. We were all it, quote and unquote. You were a it, it. I was that it at the time. Then we became he and she. Allah says, Nabtalihi. We put it in a space where we subjected it to vicissitude of life. خلق يخلقكم في بطون أمهاتكم خلق من بعد خلق في بطون في ظلمات الثلاث. Allah says we put in the process of creation, I and you, once we entered the space, Allah says Nabtalihi, we subjected your creation, the process of your creation, into series of changes. Nabtalihi. At the end of the day, Ja'alinahu Sami'an Basira. We made him an entity that has been given sense of hearing, Sami'an Basira. We made him an entity that can see. We made it, ponder that. You know, as a believer, we are thinkers. You have to be a thinking engine. Allah says, فَجَعَلْنَاهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. We made him an entity that hears. Then we made him an entity that sees. In other words, our sense of hearing precedes our sense of seeing. And to die is to first of all lose the sense of sight, but the sense of hearing is the one that will also depart this world last. Our sense of hearing functions more than our sense of seeing, though we often use our sense of seeing more often than we use our sense of hearing. But where I'm going today is the third ayah, the third verse, where Allah says, Inna adaynahu sabila. We placed him on the path. And with reference to today's interaction, I will translate as sabila to a line, the line. Inna adaynahu as-sabila. We guided him. We showed him the line. Imma shakiron wa imma kafuro. On that line, he is going to have an option. The option to be righteous, the option to be grateful, the option to be ungrateful, the option to be a believing entity, the option to be a disbeliever, the option to be an atheist who would say there's no God on earth, there's no God in the heavens, things happen by chance. You can't tell me that there's God somewhere. No. Or it could be somebody who would recognize and affirm and confirm by in its daily activity, daily interactional relationship with other entities in nature, that there is indeed a He, the Almighty, whose dominion encompasses the heavens and the earth. Now, the Prophet Muhammad in an hadith related by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said that one day, Rasama Nabiyuna Muhammad khatton ala turabi. The Prophet drew a line on earth, and the companions were watching him. You know, ma yantiku anil hawa in huwa illa wahyun yuha. The Prophet, one of the things we know about him is that when he was alive, he wasn't somebody who indulged in frivolities. That's why Allah Allah references that in Surah Al-Najm. بعد الاستعاذة والبسملة Allah says وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى عَلَّمَهُ شَدِيدُ الْقُوَى. So the Prophet one day, as usual, he will stay with his companions, and when there is a need, and indeed there was that constant need for guidance, because the reality then was that after him, and as in fact the reality is that after him there wasn't going to be another prophet after him. So it was his duty to ensure that he covered the syllabus. You get the point? When you talk about you coming to the university to take a course, to take a degree, you have a curriculum you have to follow. You have to, your teacher, your lecturers have to finish the syllabus. So the Prophet had to, it was his obligation to complete the syllabus. So he was at seat that day. He sat with the companions. Then he took his stick, وَرَسَمَ خَطًّا عَلَى التُّرَابِ. Then he drew a line on the ground, on the earth. ثُمَّ رَسَمَ خُطَوطًا عَنِ الْيَمِينِ وَعَنِ الشِّمَالِ. And beside, after having drawn the first line, he told the companions, Aza Siratullah al-Mustaqim. This is the straight path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a line that Allah has given unto you. This is a line of Islam. This is a line you should tread. This is a path you should follow. ثُمَّ رَسَمَ خُطُوطًا عَنِ الْيَمِينِ وَعَنِ الشِّمَالِ. Then he now drew some other lines on the right of the first line, which is straight, that he drew. He now drew some other lines onto the right. He will judge that lines that are crooked on the right. Then he drew some other lines that are also crooked on the left. Then he told the companions, beside this straight line, there are other lines. وَعَلَى كُلِّ خَاتٍ شَيْطَانُ. On each line that I've drawn beside this straight line, there are shaitan inviting people from this straight line to come to depart from this straight line and come to these other crooked lines beside this straight line. So when that thread came to me, I remember that hadith, that tradition of the Prophet, that he told the companions that humanity across time and forever shall always be on a straight line. But it will also be a fact of life that beside the straight line given unto them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, exemplified in Islam, exemplified by the Quran, there will be other lines, there will be other paths. And indeed, our reality today exemplifies that. Aside from Islam, aside from the path of Islam that we see, that we know that is the only pathway to salvation, we discover, we see our reality today. There are other paths that people are treading. There are other philosophies people are following. There are other thoughts that people believe in. There are other ideologies people are keeping in their heart. There are other thinking that people are thinking. And all those thoughts, all those paths, all those pathways, aside from Islam, are pathways to hellfire. Nowadays, you and I know that for you to be a righteous person, you have to take care of those four entities. You have to be in charge properly of your Aqidah. Your heart, your ideology needs to be sound. You should avoid a situation where you believe in other entities aside from Allah. The first thing, as I'm saying, is that you need to take care of what is in your heart, your belief. But as I said some time ago, for you to be a believer, you need to be a disbeliever. A believer is a disbeliever. Recall what Allah tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 256 and 257. 256 ayah al-Kursi that you and I know. But the ayah that follows, Allah, take this portion. Allah says, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرُ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. Whosoever decides, takes that firm decision to be a kafir to unbelief. فَمَنْ يَكْفُرُ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. You get it? For me to be a believer in Allah, the implication of my belief in Allah is that I'm a disbeliever in every other thing every other entities aside from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the key to success, to earthly success, and to eternal bliss is for you to have to ensure that what operates in your heart, our heart is like the engine of a car. Once the engine is bad, the car is useless. No matter how beautiful it is, no matter how beautiful the upholstery in the car is, no matter how good the AC is. In fact, the AC won't work once the engine is not working. So the path, the similitude of the path that the Prophet gave to the companions that day, it's that path that features four different. There are four features on it. The first one is the ideology. A believer in Allah who is on that path would constantly ensure that he stands with Allah, come rain, come shine. Number two, ibadah. On that path, you can't be a believer without being a worshipper of Allah. And as we always remind us, to believe in Allah is to be a worshipper of Allah. And to worship Allah is for you to ensure that you do not play or trifle with your 5 daily prayers. You do not trifle with your 5 daily prayers. Because it is the pillar of the faith. As-salatu imaduddin. Faman aqamaha faqad aqama din. Wa man hadamaha faqad hadama din. Whosoever ensures that he established prayers 5 times a day, the person has fulfilled the obligation of faith. At least he has satisfied that second condition of those on that path. The third condition, the third feature of that path, that straight path, is mu'amalat. You can't say you're a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't say that you affirm that He sees you wherever you are. You can't say you affirm that He is there where there's nothing except Him. You can't say that He sees you while you are in darkness. You can't say you believe in Him. You are shouting His name. You can't say you are praying 5 times a day. You can't say you are fasting 5 times, during the month of Ramadan. And people question your behaviors in the society. Your mu'amalat, the way you relate with people, should speak to your salat. Your salat should speak to your belief. We are told, Allah tells us, in a salat, tanha anil fahsha wal munkar. Allah tells us that those who observe 5 daily prayers, salat tanha anil fahsha wal munkar. So the person on the path, on that line that the Prophet ﷺ drew that day, will be somebody who will be a good person in the community. Is a person who people will always mention when they are talking about those who are good. And how do you know those who are good? Whenever he talks beauty. It's like the honeybee. The honeybee has 2 features. لا يأكل إلا طيبا ولا يخرج منه إلا طيبا. The believer on that path, on that straight path, on the line that Rasulullah drew that day, should be like the honeybee. The honeybee doesn't eat anything except that which is beautiful, that which is very fine. And that's why you see honeybee, wherever there is a nectar, a flower with tasteful nectar, they travel there. Allah in Surah Al-Nahl, chapter 16, Allah says, we inspire the honeybee to discover where treasures are for them. So when the honeybee is at Abuja, it's at the FCT, maybe in Gwagwalada, for example, and there are goodies for them, say in Karu, for example. The honeybee will take flight from Gwagwalada and they will begin the journey. You see them moving towards that to that place where there's goodie for them, to that place where there are flowers for them, where they can suck from the nectar, beautiful ones. Who does that? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La yakhruju illa tujiban. It doesn't eat anything except that which is pure. Yeah, the honeybee doesn't eat anything except that which is pure. وَلَا يَخْرُجُ مِنْهُ إِلَّا طَيِّبًا. And nothing comes out of the honeybee except that which is pure. In other words, the point I'm making is that for the person on the path, on that line that the Prophet drew that day, beside which there are other crooked lines, the person must be a pure person. To be pure means to ensure that you eat that which is pure. To be pure means you ensure that you wear that which is clean and fine. The believer in Allah, his appearance should not turn people off. If she's a woman, her hijab should be pure, should be clean. If she's a woman, her hijab should be such that we invite people to Islam. If he's a man, his scarf should be neat. His beard should be fine. His appearance should be Islamic. To be Islamic is for you to appear beautiful. If he's on that path, he will not eat anything except that which is pure. I recall when we were young, my father always ensured that we eat live chickens. If not live chicken, all sort of livestock, live one, not dead ones. But later in life, I realized the wisdom in that. Because some of the time when you eat, what you eat impacts your spirituality. And once the spiritual is corrupted, the connection with the Most High becomes invalidated. So to be on that path is to ensure that what goes into your mouth is pure, is clean, because it will affect your spiritual realm. To be on that line is to ensure that what you put your private part into is also not against what those who are on that line should put their private part into. Recall Surah Al-Mu'minun, chapter 23. Allah exemplifies the quality of those who enter paradise on the day of resurrection. Ayah 1 to 11. One of those qualities is that وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ. To be on that path is to ensure that your private part doesn't become a public property. Dear sister, to be on that path, the line drawn that day by the Prophet ﷺ, drawn that day by the Prophet ﷺ, means that your private part would be for your husband if you're a woman, not as a public property. Because if you are on that path, you claim to be a Muslim, you wear hijab, and people see you in places where people of women of easy virtues are found, then it's better for you to remove your hijab. Because when you put that hijab on, you are creating a problem for my daughter. You are creating a problem for my wife. You are also questioning their Islamic identity because you have polluted your own Islamic identity. To be on that path, that line drawn that day by the Prophet ﷺ also means that if you're a politician, if you're a head of state, if you're a governor, I pity you. Because to be on that path is to prepare, lastly, for Al-Qiyamah, the day of accountability. So that's the implication. But in concluding, to be on the line, on that line, is to recall, to keep in mind that everybody on earth is on that line by implication. And that line has a beginning. Once that line has a beginning, that means the line has an end. But the greater point for me, of reflection for me, is that since we are all on that line, the person at point A or point B or point C cannot jump to point Z. Do you get the point? To be on that line drawn by the Prophet ﷺ, which mirrors our reality, is to recall, to keep in mind that the line that Allah has put everybody on earth, there can't be a jumping the line. You can't jump beyond your time. You can't jump. You can't leave the line and jump and go to the front. You can't go back. That's the implication. What that also means is that you have to be patient with your Creator who has put you on that line. Don't be in a hurry to enjoy life. After all, Whether you are in a hurry or not, everybody is heading towards the last day, towards the last point of the line. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has made it possible for us to engage in this reflection, would make it better understood than I've tried to impart it unto us. I pray that may He make our feet firm on the path of rectitude, such that no matter the adversity, and no matter by implication and by contradiction or contradistinction, the prosperity, may we continue to remain believers with strong faith in Allah, with strong moral rectitude, with that constant preparation for the day of transition. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم تب علينا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وآتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
أولئك لهم جنات عدن تجري من تحتهم الأنهار يحلون فيها من أساور من ذهب ويلبسون ثيابا خضرا من سندس واستبرق متكئين فيها على الأرائك نعم الثواب وحسنت مرتفقا.
Those will have gardens of perpetual residence. Beneath them rivers will flow. They will be adorned therein with bracelets of gold and will wear green garments of fine silk and brocade, reclining therein on adorned couches. Excellent is the reward and good is the resting place.